and see what's on the slab.
I want to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father.
Sky means business.
Yeah, welcome back to another installment of this week's Trailer Trash. I'm your host, Scotty J, more or less. I'm laughing because I just took a look at the trailers that we're going to have on this week's show, and it's basically a carryover from the last show. We're going back to old school slapstick, classic in-your-face comedy. I'm talking about probably the master of 60s slapstick, Jerry Lewis. The man was a comic genius. He wrote, produced, and directed all his own films. He came up with all the sight gags that you see in the films. And he was great at pantomime, which you'll see in a couple of these. Great as just as an old school pantomime clown. But his best was the visual gag. And we're going to start out, you're going to see samples of that throughout the whole show. We're going to start this week's show with a trailer called Rockabye Baby. Basically, it's Jerry Lewis's takeoff on the Elvis film. You'll see what I mean when you see it, which is maybe not so much by coincidence, because the producer of this film was the same gentleman that produced a good majority of Elvis's films in the 60s, Mr. Hal Wallace. And then we're going to take a look at Jerry's take on the whole UFO thing in the 1960s, Visit to a Small Planet. So let's take a look at these, and we'll be right back.
You go to sleep, rockabye, my baby, where the cherubs trod.
Rockabye Baby. That's the understatement of the year, because our boy Jerry has just become a mother. Not of one, not of two babies. What he's got is
Triplets.
And here are just a few moments from Jerry's hilarious adventures in Babyland.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, all you have to do is just pat her back. Easy. Very easy.
That's easy, the way I'm doing it. Something's wrong with this one. It ain't working. Oh.
And he's got troubles with grown-ups, too. The movie star.
Oh, Clayton, I'm so glad to see you.
Oh, so am I. I mean, so are we.
The teenager.
Oh.
I'm getting to you. Your thermometer's riding, Clayton.
The irate papa who wants to know where the babies came from.
Don't tell me about it. Just do it fast. I can't stand inside of my own blood. Oh, please, Papa.
And wait till you see Jerry on TV. Like this.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
And like this.
Oh, rock, baby, oh, rock. Oh, rock, rock, baby, rock. Rock, rock, baby, rock. Rock, rock, rock. They say the desert moon was I. Then she came breathing fire and flame.
Why can't you care for me?
Flash! Alert all stations! Stand by world! UFO, unidentified flying object, racing in from outer space. But where's it from? Who's inside? A bug-eyed monster or a little green man with two heads? It's even stranger than that. so brace yourself for a shock. It's Jerry Lewis, as you've never seen him before, in a Hal Wallace production of Broadway's sensational comedy hit, Visit to a Small Planet.
Oh. Good evening. I wonder if you could help me. Am I anywhere near, Oh, I guess he hasn't learned to read yet.
It's a completely different and delightful Jerry Lewis you'll see, as the dizzy young wizard from Planet X-47 with his weird and wonderful tricks.
You really shouldn't be up there, you know. You'll get footprints all over the ceiling.
Upside down or right side up, Jerry always scores a bullseye.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Spaulding.
Get this thing off me. Get it off.
All right, just a second.
You'll flip your lid, too, when Jerry gets caught in the war between the sexes. Earthman Earl Holliman giving a high-voltage lesson in lovemaking with beautiful Joan Blackman.
So that's how you Earthlings do it. That's very interesting. Well, I'm pretty well squared away on it, except for one teensy-weensy little detail. Which one has the baby?
Creton!
And it's like Crazy Man when Jerry goes beatnik.
Welcome to, behind the scenes, as it were. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm D.O.A. Bird, producer of fine films. That's right. And if I may, I would like very much for some of you folk out there to meet some of the people that are to blame for, that are responsible for this film we're going to show you some scenes from. Excuse me. First, of course, I'd like to have you meet the writer. And, of course, without the writer, there would be an overabundance of paper. A writer. A man we all respect probably more than anyone else in the picture business. And this is our writer, D.T. Stronghold.
Hello, Mr. Bird. I love you, great producer.
And, of course, where would we all be if it weren't for the director? Yes, the mighty director.
Schwein, can't you see I'm creating? Oh, it's you, Mr. Bird. It's a pleasure to have you on the set. Oh, I broke both my...
Oh, they're all strange. Well, here is our star, the man who will deliver us from TV. And once again, having the theaters bursting with laughter. Jerry Lewis. Go ahead, Jerry. Show us some of the funny things that we've been talking about that are in this picture. Go ahead, Jared. Some of them kind of stiffen up a little when you ask them to ad lib. Thanks, anyhow. Come with me. I'll show you myself. Yes, indeed, this will be much easier. You'll see some of the scenes and, well, roll it. Go on.
The Bellboy, filmed completely in fabulous Miami, where Bellboy Jerry turns the fantastic Fontainebleau Hotel into his own private madhouse, tangling with the bags and the babes.
Oh, I don't want
Those beautiful Miami models in the altogether delightful situations that only Jerry can cover up. It's a series of silly sequences. The visual diary of a few weeks in the life of a madcap who makes for fun.
It's Jerry's latest job in the film capital of the world. As he fractures Hollywood into a million laughs, turning everything fun side up and inside out.
Do you realize that screw loose imitation of a human being has disrupted this studio beyond control?
I know.
You know.
Well, not if you yell, I don't.
Let's show you a few of its quieter moments when Jerry settles down for lunch on a studio street. When he wants a drink of water in the mailroom. Escorts a Hollywood star home from a premiere and almost makes the grade. And is given the most important job of all at a studio party.
Open that, will you, son?
You see what I mean, though. The Bellboy. It wasn't a very long film. It was all of maybe an hour, 15 minutes. But it basically showed what it was like to be a bellhop in the fancy, ritzy, gaudy hotels that were later to be known as resorts. This entire film, The Bellboy, was actually filmed on location in Miami. Name of the hotel slips my mind off the top of my head, but the whole thing was on location. No Hollywood sets used. The entire film was shot in the hotel. And you can see by the sight gags, there's a scene in the movie where Jerry Lewis is set to set up a theater for a showing later that night, one of the main auditorium rooms. And you just see how cavernous and how huge this room is, just from the camera angles used. Well, see the movie, you'll see what I'm talking about. And then the errand boy, that's what I was talking about earlier, with him spoofing the industry in Hollywood. Him playing basically a gopher for these big Hollywood movie studios, and just the spoofing of what they actually do on a day-to-day basis. Gag-filled, laughs galore. Vintage Jerry Lewis, that's all I'm going to say. But we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with a little twist, a little Lewis twist on a classic fairy tale. We'll be right back.
This is Gilbert, 1963.
No, I don't usually think of it as a toy.
The all-new Gilbert erector set.
It's more like a whole world, I guess. You know what I mean.
Color in erector, new for 63. Shaped parts that give a solid, enclosed 3D look, new for 63. The Powermatic hoist. The Powermatic motor. The control panel with forward and reverse. The conveyor belt, new for 63. plug-in power, and the most remarkable advance in erector sets since Gilbert decided to make them. The fully automatic Powermatic Programmer, which brings exclusive automation to Gilbert erector sets in 1963. The all-new Gilbert erector sets in these all-new 1963 packages, worthy of the precious tools they hold.
There's no sense in knowing something unless you understand it.
The all-new, completely different Gilbert chemistry sets, with a volcano that erupts. A fire extinguisher you make yourself.
Fires when you're making something.
The chemistry of plastics. You make plastic. Mold plastic. Play with plastic.
This next set of trailers by Jerry Lewis is going to be a more of his modern stuff. By modern, I'm looking more the latter part of the 60s. All self-produced, self-directed, self-written. But we're going to start off a very unique twist on the whole fairy tale thing. Jerry Lewis had done a rewrite and a recreation of Cinderella. His remake being entitled appropriately Cinderfella. A gentleman by the last name of Fella had two ugly, in this case he had two handsome stepbrothers and a ruthless stepmother, etc., etc. His fairy godfather, which you may find hilarious, was played by a classic Hollywood actor, comedian, Ed Wynn, who was also in the original Disney's Babes in Toyland, and a classic Hollywood actor of the 50s and 60s. Big-time character actor, but just he definitely works in this part. We're going to come out to one called The Ladies' Man, and notice the size of the sets in this trailer. It's incredible, the time and money they put into the sets for that time. And we're going to end this week's show of trailers with the original trailer for The Nutty Professor. And it's done a little bit differently than your standard trailer. You'll see what I mean, and we'll talk about that when we come back.
Years of storytelling fun into sparkling, up-to-date new life on the screen as he plays Cinderfella, the kitchen lackey who dishes out a feast of gags in his riotous rise from rags to riches. Right before your very eyes, Judith Anderson becomes the nastiest stepmother in Bel Air, California. Right before your very eyes, Ed Wynn comes floating on as Fella's wonderful fairy godfather. Right before your very eyes, Henry Silva and Robert Hutton make the scene as Fella's meanie stepbrothers.
Oh, I'll walk. I'm not scared.
Right before your very eyes, a royal procession comes barreling into Bel Air, bringing on that beautiful Princess Charming, Anna Maria Alberghetti,
The girl who starts fella dreaming until he wakes up screaming. Right before your very eyes, the big screen really starts swinging with Count Basie and his world-renowned band. Hollywood's biggest, most elaborate, most expensive studio stage set of all time is constructed before your eyes. 500 miles of wire, 100 tons of structural steel, acres of wood, carloads of nails, barrels of paint, and only one thing is missing to complete it all, the super nut. And here he is. Girl-shy, woman-hating Jerry Lewis is a ladies' man?
I love you, Sherry.
What are you, crazy, lady?
Jerry finds a haven of happiness as a handyman in a Hollywood hotel for girls only.
Please dance with me.
Yes, Jerry is the only man in this establishment where the females are more delicious than the food. And when you see it, you'll agree he's never had it so funny.
I'm not moving. Aha! Well, at least you got a double that time. That's for two bagger, Miss Bellin.
Hi, honey.
Please, you must help me.
Help you what?
I'm desperate, and I'm so defenseless.
I'm not a private investigator. You want Pete Flint.
You're not Pete Flint?
No, but I could fix your TV set.
Sex maniac.
It's the laugh explosion of the year, with Jerry trying to make like Sam Spade and Mike Hammer.
Get away from me, will you? It's only wounded, Mr. Flint.
See Jerry at his screaming best, fumbling, bumbling, and stumbling on a wild adventure that starts with a fishy escapade on a Malibu pier. And takes off on a stormy night with dead bodies at his feet and beautiful blondes in his arms.
What happened to the lips? You started off a good thing. You have a message for me, deliver it and get out of here.
You know what, fellas, to crawl up here and break his neck?
Oh, help, help! Help, he's pushing!
I gotta get out of before it bites me.
Just about ready, Jennifer.
You might be ready, Julius. But if I were you, I'd think about it.
We don't care if you blab about the beginning of this picture, nor do we care if you give away the ending, but we do care if you reveal the middle. In fact, Jerry Lewis urges you to see this picture from the beginning on penalty of losing your popcorn privileges. One thing we will tell you is that Jerry plays the part of an eccentric chemistry professor who invents the greatest new drink since Dracula discovered the Bloody Mary. One sip and he turns into... Ah, that would be telling. And even those who know aren't telling. Professor? Professor! Professor! Keep the mind on the chemistry.
Welcome back. You saw what I meant by the Nutty Professor. That was the ultimate trailer tease. It would show you the beginning of a movie and show you his professor character, but it didn't show you the character that he turned into. There was basically a sales and promotional vehicle to get people to the theater, and believe me, as we could see from track record, I think it worked. Check out the movie if you haven't, God forbid. If you've been under a rock and have never seen the original Nutty Professor, definitely check it out. It's harmless family entertainment. There's no potty mouth words. There's nothing questionable, which is why I, for one, appreciate more of the classic comedy more than anything that's put out now. Not that some of the stuff is, you know, not funny now, but they don't have to resort to the words, the language, the adult-related humor now. This is just plain, clean slapstick. But I'm gonna get off my soapbox for this week, and next week we're gonna round out our Jerry Lewis stuff. We're gonna see The Family Jewels, which has a very unique twist in the comedy genre, and we're gonna look at one of his last feature films as well. So until next week, this is Scotty J on behalf of Scotty J Trailer Trash. Remember, for any comments you might have on this show, let us know what you think. 533-1710 is the number, you know it. Northwest Community Television viewer response line. So until next week, we'll see you then.
Sky means business.